At the birthday party, my sister asked the DJ to skip my name during Shoutouts. Hey everyone. If you've ever felt forgotten at a family celebration, or wondered if sibling rivalry can go too far, this story will hit close to home. Make sure to subscribe, and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss how this family drama unfolds. Trust me, this one has twists you won't see coming. Chapter 1. The Perfect Sisters, Sweet 16. The bass from the DJ booth vibrated through the hardwood floors of our family's suburban Atlanta home, where golden balloons spelled out Happy 16th Birthday Madison across the living room wall. It was October 15th, and my sister had been planning this party for months. Everything had to be perfect for Madison. I always did. I stood in the corner of our transformed garage, watching clusters of teenagers from Madison's private school laugh and dance under string lights that Mom had spent 3 days hanging. The space looked like something out of a Pinterest board, complete with a photo booth backdrop featuring Madison's favorite rose gold theme, and a dessert table that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. "Lily, can you grab more ice from the freezer?" Mom called out, her voice barely audible over the music. She rushed past me carrying a tray of chocolate-covered strawberries, her carefully styled hair already starting to frizz from the Georgia humidity and stress. I nodded and headed toward the house, stepping carefully around couples slow dancing to some pop song I didn't recognize. At 17, I should have been part of this scene, but Madison's friends had never really been my crowd. They were the type who carried designer purses to high school and posted Instagram stories from there, weekend trips to their parents' lake houses. "This party is absolutely incredible," I heard Jessica Park tell Madison as I passed the dessert table. "Your parents really went all out, and that dress, gorgeous." Madison beamed in her off-the-shoulder burgundy dress that she'd picked out during a special shopping trip to Lenox Square. "Thanks. I just wanted everything to be perfect, you know? Perfect." That word followed Madison everywhere, and honestly, she usually lived up to it. Straight A's, varsity volleyball captain, student council, vice president, and now this flawless Sweet 16 party. I grabbed the ice from the kitchen freezer, listening to the muffled sounds of celebration through the walls. Dad appeared in the kitchen doorway, loosening his tie. He'd insisted on wearing a button-down shirt and khakis to look presentable. For Madison's friends' parents, even though it was just a teenage birthday party, "Having fun, kiddo?" he asked, though his attention was already drifting back toward the party. "It's great," I lied, hefting the bag of ice. "Madison seems really happy. She deserves it. 16 is a big milestone." He smiled, that proud parent smile that I'd seen 1,000 times when it came to Madison. "Make sure you get some cake before it's gone. Your mom special ordered it from that fancy bakery in Buckhead." Of course she did. Madison's cake was a 3-tier masterpiece decorated with edible gold leaf and fresh flowers. My own birthday cake 3 months ago had been homemade chocolate from a box mix not that I minded. But the contrast wasn't lost on me. I carried the ice back outside, where the party was hitting its peak. The DJ, a guy named Marcus who looked like he was maybe 25, had everyone dancing to some remix I didn't recognize. Madison was in the center of it all, laughing as her best friend Emma spun her around. All right. Marcus called into his microphone, lowering the music volume. "It's time for some birthday shoutouts. I want everyone to gather around while we show some love to our birthday girl and her amazing family." My stomach dropped. Shoutouts were a thing at teenage parties now. The DJ would call out names of family members and friends while everyone cheered. I'd been to enough parties to know the drill. They'd mention the birthday person, their parents, maybe their siblings and closest friends. The crowd gathered in a semicircle around the DJ booth. Madison stood front and center, practically glowing with excitement. Mom and Dad positioned themselves near the dessert table, Dad with his phone out to record the moment. "First, let's hear it for the birthday princess herself, Miss Madison Williams," Marcus announced. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Madison curtsied playfully, eating up every second of attention. "And we've got to show love to Mr. and Mrs. Williams for throwing this incredible party." More cheers. Mom waved like she was accepting an award, and Dad gave an awkward thumbs up. I found myself holding my breath, waiting for my name. It was silly, maybe, but I was Madison's sister. Wasn't that worth mentioning? I stood near the back of the crowd, but I was there, part of the family, part of this celebration. Shout out to Emma Rodriguez, Madison's ride-or-die best friend. Emma shrieked and ran to hug Madison. They jumped up and down together while everyone laughed. Marcus continued down his list: Madison's volleyball teammates, her student council, friends, even her favorite teacher who'd made a surprise appearance. With each name that wasn't mine, I felt myself shrinking further into the background. And finally, let's hear it for everyone who came out tonight to celebrate with Madison. Y'all are the real MVPs. That was it. The shoutouts were over, and Marcus was already queuing up the next song. My name had never been mentioned. Not once. I looked around to see if anyone else had noticed, but everyone was already moving back to dancing or heading to the food table. It was like I was invisible, just part of the scenery in Madison's perfect party. Lily Madison appeared beside me, still breathless from dancing. "Isn't this amazing? I can't believe how well everything turned out." "Yeah, I managed. It's really great. Madison, you look beautiful. She hugged me quickly before Emma pulled her away to take more photos. As I watched her go, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with this picture. It wasn't just about the shoutouts, it was about feeling like a guest at my own family's celebration. Like I was watching Madison's life through a window instead of being part of it. The party continued around me, but I felt suddenly exhausted. I helped Mom clean up some empty cups and tried to look like I was having fun, but inside, a familiar ache was growing. The same ache I felt when Madison got into her first-choice college early admission while I was still waiting to hear back from my safety schools. The same ache from watching her accept yet another academic award while I struggled to maintain a B average. I was happy for Madison, I really was. But tonight, standing in the shadow of her perfect Sweet 16, I couldn't help but wonder when it had become so normal for me to disappear into the background of my own family. Chapter 2. Secrets in the bathroom. The bass line of another pop song vibrated through the bathroom door as I splashed cold water on my face, trying to pull myself together. It was pathetic. Really? Getting upset over something as stupid as party shoutouts? Madison didn't control what the DJ said. It probably hadn't even occurred to her that siblings usually got mentioned. I stared at my reflection in the mirror above our guest bathroom sink. My brown hair hung limp around my shoulders. I'd spent exactly 3 minutes on it compared to the hour Madison had spent perfecting her beach waves. My simple black dress suddenly felt boring next to all the trendy outfits I'd seen tonight. Get it together, Lily, I whispered to myself. It's her birthday. Stop being selfish. I was about to head back to the party when I heard voices outside. The bathroom door, Madison's voice, specifically, talking to someone in the hallway. Just don't want anything to ruin tonight, she was saying. Everything has been so perfect. Girl, your party is literally amazing, Emma replied. Nothing could ruin this. Your parents went all out, I know, but Madison's voice dropped lower, and I found myself leaning closer to the door. I just worry about Lily sometimes. She's been in such a weird mood lately, and I didn't want her to do something to make it about her. You know? My stomach clenched. Make it about her. What was that supposed to mean? What do you mean? Emma asked. Madison sighed. Like she's been acting all mopey because of the college stuff. She didn't get into Georgia State early action, and she's been super jealous that I got into Emory. Mom and Dad have been trying to be all supportive of her, but honestly, it's been kind of exhausting. Tonight is supposed to be about me. Oh, my God, totally. Emma agreed. It's your 16th birthday. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Exactly. So when I was talking to the DJ earlier about the shoutouts, I asked him to keep it simple, just close family and friends. I didn't want Lily to feel weird if he mentioned her grades or college stuff in front of everyone. Wait, what? That was really thoughtful of you, Emma said. Some sisters would totally milk the attention. I mean, I love Lily, but sometimes I think she forgets that not everything is about her. Like when I got the Emory acceptance, she barely even congratulated me. She just went to her room and sulked. My face burned with embarrassment and anger. I had congratulated Matt aside, hugged her, and told her how proud I was. Just because I hadn't thrown a parade didn't mean I wasn't happy for her, and the idea that I would somehow make her birthday party about myself was ridiculous. But what stung most was the revelation about the shoutouts. Madison had specifically asked the DJ not to mention me. It wasn't an oversight or a mistake. It was intentional. We should probably get back, Madison said. I want to do the cake cutting soon. Their footsteps moved away down the hallway, but I stayed frozen in the bathroom, my hands gripping the edge of the sink. The hurt was quickly transforming into something sharper anger, maybe, or just the crushing realization that my own sister saw me as a problem to be managed rather than family to be celebrated. Thought about all the times I'd helped set up for this party, spending my Saturday morning blowing up balloons, helping Mom hang decorations, even letting Madison borrow my favorite necklace because it went better with her outfit. I'd been supportive and excited for her, and apparently she'd been worried I would somehow ruin her perfect night. When I finally emerged from the bathroom, the party was reaching its crescendo. Someone had dimmed the lights, and the dance floor was packed. Madison was in the center of it all, laughing as her friends sang along to some song about being young and wild. She looked radiant, carefree, like she didn't have a worry in the world. There you are. Mom appeared beside me, carrying a stack of dirty plates. I was wondering where you'd gone. Are you feeling okay? You look a little pale. I'm fine, I said automatically. Just needed a minute. Mom studied my face with that parental intuition that always made me nervous. You sure? You seemed a little quiet tonight. I wanted to tell her what I'd overheard. Wanted to ask if she'd noticed that her younger daughter had been strategically excluded from her own sister's celebration. But looking at Mom's face, tired but happy, proud of the party she'd worked so hard to organize, I couldn't bring myself to ruin it. Just tired, I said instead. It's been a long day. Why don't you grab some cake and then you can head to bed if you want? I know parties aren't really your thing. Even Mom saw me as separate from this celebration, like I was tolerating it, rather than participating in it. Had it always been this way? Had I always been the sister who didn't quite fit in Madison's world of achievement and popularity? Actually, I think I'll stay up and help clean, I said. It's Madison's birthday. Family should stick together. Mom smiled and squeezed my arm. You're a good sister, Lily. Madison's lucky to have you. If only Madison felt the same way. I watched my sister blow out her 16 candles while everyone sang happy birthday. She closed her eyes and made her wish, probably for continued success and happiness and all the things that seemed to come so easily to her. When she opened her eyes, they found mine across the crowd, and she smiled and waved like everything was normal. But everything wasn't normal. For the first time in my life, I was seeing clearly the dynamic that had been building in our family for years. Madison was the star, and I was the supporting cast. She was the main character in our family's story, and I was just ... there. The party wound down, and guests started leaving. I helped stack chairs and collect empty cups, playing the role of the helpful sister while my mind raced. The hurt was still there, but underneath it was something else, a determination I hadn't felt before. Madison might see me as someone who needed to be managed or hidden away, but I was done being invisible in my own family. I was done shrinking into the background and pretending it didn't matter. The question was, what was I going to do about it? Chapter 3, The Breaking Point. 3 weeks later, I was still thinking about Madison's party. Not obsessively, but the memory would surface at random moments while I was studying for my SAT retake, or helping Mom fold laundry, or watching Madison practice her valedictorian speech at the kitchen table. Each time, I felt that same sting of being deliberately overlooked by my own sister. The college rejection letters weren't helping my mood. Georgia State had finally sent their response, waitlisted University of Georgia, rejection. Even my safety school, Georgia Southern, had only offered conditional acceptance pending my final semester grades. Meanwhile, Madison's acceptance to Emory hung framed on the refrigerator like a trophy. Lily, can you drive me to volleyball practice? Madison called from upstairs. Mom's stuck in traffic coming back from her doctor's appointment. I looked up from my calculus homework, spread across the dining room table. Can't you ask Emma for a ride? She's already left. Please, I'll owe you one. The phrase hit me wrong. Madison had owed me one for years, now for covering for her when she snuck out to meet boys, for doing her share of household chores when she was busy with student council, for listening to her drama about which colleges to choose from when I was struggling to get into any college at all. Fine, I called back, closing my textbook harder than necessary. 20 minutes later, we were in my used Toyota Camry, a far cry from the Jeep Wrangler Madison would be getting for graduation. The silence stretched between us as I navigated through our neighborhood toward the school. So, Madison said, adjusting the radio to her favorite pop station, I've been thinking about my graduation party. Of course she had. Madison's high school graduation was still 4 months away, but she'd been planning the celebration since freshman year. Mom said I can invite basically whoever I want. I'm thinking maybe a backyard barbecue theme, something more casual than my Sweet 16, but still really nice. Dad mentioned maybe getting a caterer. I focused on the road, trying to keep my expression neutral. Sounds great. I know it's going to be weird with you starting college and everything, but Madison stopped mid-sentence. I mean, wherever you end up going, I know you're still waiting to hear back from some places. The casual dismissal in her voice made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. Wherever I end up going, like my college plans were just some uncertain afterthought compared to her guaranteed spot at Emory. Actually, I said, surprising myself. With my own boldness, I've been wondering about something. What? I took a breath, knowing I was about to cross a line we'd never crossed before. At your birthday party, why did you ask the DJ not to mention me in the shoutouts? The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the faint buzz of the radio between songs. Madison shifted in her seat, and I could see her reflection in the passenger window looking genuinely surprised that I knew. What? She said, but her voice lacked conviction. I heard you talking to Emma in the hallway. You specifically asked him to keep it simple and not mention me. Madison was quiet for so long, I started to wonder if she was going to answer at all. When she finally spoke, her voice was defensive. I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From being embarrassed? God, Lily, you've been so sensitive about everything lately. The college stuff, the grades, everything. I didn't want the DJ to say something awkward about you being a senior, or whatever, and make you feel worse. I pulled into the school parking lot and put the car in park, turning to face my sister directly for the first time in the conversation. So you thought the best way to protect me was to pretend I don't exist? That's not what I did. That's exactly what you did, Madison. I'm your sister. I live in the same house. I helped plan your party. I was standing right there, and you made sure I wasn't acknowledged at all. Madison's cheeks flushed pink, the way they always did when she was caught in something she couldn't easily explain away. You're being dramatic. It wasn't about you. Everything's not about me, but nothing's about me either, I said, surprising myself with how clearly the thought came out. When was the last time anything in our family was about me? When was the last time Mom and Dad celebrated something I did with the same energy they put into your accomplishments? That's not fair. You know Mom and Dad love you. I know they love me, but loving me and celebrating me are two different things. And you don't even see me as someone worth including in your celebrations. Madison stared at me, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, but then her expression hardened. You know what your problem is, Lily. You blame everyone else for your problems instead of taking responsibility. I work hard for my achievements. I study. I'm involved in activities. I put myself out there. You just coast through everything and then get upset when you don't get the same recognition. The words hit like a physical blow. I don't coast through anything, please. When was the last time you joined a club, or tried out for a team, or did anything besides the bare minimum? You act like the world owes you something, but you don't put in the work. I work plenty hard. I just don't need everyone to see it and applaud me for it. No, you just expect them to notice and celebrate you anyway. Madison grabbed her volleyball bag from the back seat. I have to go. Practice starts in 5 minutes. She got out of the car but then leaned down to the open window. For what it's worth, I am sorry you felt left out at my party. That wasn't my intention, but maybe instead of being mad at me for having a good life, you should focus on building your own. With that, she jogged toward the gym, leaving me sitting alone in the parking lot with her words echoing in my head. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just making excuses, blaming her for my own failures and insecurities. Maybe I was the problem, but as I drove home through the familiar streets of our neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that Madison had missed the point entirely. This wasn't about her success or my supposed lack of effort. This was about feeling invisible in my own family, about watching my sister systematically exclude me from moments that should have included both of us, and for the first time in my life. I was tired of pretending that was okay. Chapter 4. Finding my voice. 2 days after our fight in the car, Madison and I were barely speaking. We passed each other in the hallway with polite nods, ate dinner while discussing safe topics like the weather and school schedules, and generally maintained the kind of surface-level civility that made our parents think everything was fine, but everything wasn't fine. Madison's words kept replaying in my head. You just coast through everything and then get upset when you don't get the same recognition. Was that really how she saw me? As someone who expected rewards without effort? I was mulling this over while reorganizing my bookshelf, a nervous habit I'd developed during stressful times, when I found my old journal from sophomore year. I flipped through the pages, reading entries about school stress, friend drama, and my struggles with feeling overshadowed by Madison's achievements. March 15th, Madison made varsity volleyball as a freshman. Mom and Dad took her out to celebrate at her favorite restaurant. I got a B+ on my English paper, my best grade in that class all semester, and no one even noticed. April 8th, student council elections today. Madison won vice president. I didn't even run for anything because what's the point? Everyone would just vote for her anyway. October 22nd, Madison's homecoming court nomination got announced at the pep rally. The whole school cheered. I wish I could be invisible. Page after page of the same theme. Madison shining while I faded into the background. But reading it now, I noticed something I'd missed at the time. In every entry, I was waiting for recognition instead of actively pursuing it. I was watching Madison's life instead of building my own. Maybe she had a point. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Sarah, still coming to my birthday dinner Saturday. We're doing that hibachi place you love. I stared at the message, remembering something that made my stomach clench with guilt. Last year, when Sarah had asked me to give a toast at her birthday dinner, I'd declined because I didn't like public speaking. The real reason was that I didn't want to risk embarrassing myself in front of her other friends, who all seemed more confident and articulate than me. How many opportunities had I passed up because I was afraid of not being perfect? How many times had I chosen invisibility over the risk of failure? I thought about Madison's graduation party, still months away but already being planned in detail. The old me would have helped in the background, arranging decorations and cleaning up afterward while Madison basked in the spotlight. But what if, for once, I insisted on being part of the story instead of just watching it unfold? That Saturday night at Sarah's birthday dinner, I surprised myself by asking if I could say a few words before we ordered dessert. My hand shook as I stood up in the hibachi restaurant, with its sizzling grills and chattering families, providing a decidedly unserious backdrop for what felt like a monumental moment. I just wanted to say, I began, my voice stronger than I'd expected, that Sarah is one of those people who makes everyone around her feel seen and valued. She remembers the little things, like when I'm stressed about a test or excited about a book I'm reading. She's the kind of friend who celebrates your victories like they're her own. As I spoke, I watched Sarah's face light up with genuine joy. Her other friends were smiling too, nodding along with my words. When I finished and sat down, the table erupted in applause, and Sarah hugged me tightly. "That was beautiful, Lily," she whispered. "Thank you." It was a small moment, but it felt significant. I had chosen to be present, to be visible, to contribute. Something meaningful instead of just observing from the sidelines. The next Monday at school, I did something even more radical. I signed up to audition for the spring play, not because I had any particular acting talent, but because I'd always been curious about theater and had never been brave enough to try. The auditions were terrifying. I stumbled through my monologue and forgot half the lines I'd practiced. But director Mrs. Chen smiled encouragingly and thanked me for coming. and I left the theater feeling more alive than I had in months. When the cast list was posted 2 days later, I found my name listed for a small but meaningful role, the narrator's assistant, with a few solo lines and a presence throughout the production. It wasn't the lead, but it was something. It was mine. "You're doing the spring play?" Madison asked that evening, looking up from her calculus homework. It was the first real conversation we'd initiated since our fight. "Ya got cast as the narrator's assistant." Madison set down her pencil, studying my face. That's really cool, Lily. I didn't know you were interested in theater." I wasn't sure I was either, but I figured it was time to find out. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our unresolved conflict hanging between us. Finally, Madison spoke. "I've been thinking about what you said, about the birthday party." I looked up from my own homework, surprised. I keep telling myself I was trying to protect you, but maybe I was protecting myself too. From having to share attention, or from dealing with complicated family dynamics at my party. She paused, seeming to gather courage. "I think I've gotten used to being the one who gets celebrated, and I didn't want anything to change that." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from Madison, and it meant more than I'd expected. "I've been thinking too," I said, "about what you said about coasting. Maybe you were right about some of it. I have been waiting for recognition instead of earning it. But Madison, that doesn't mean I deserve to be invisible." "You're not invisible. You're my sister. But do you see me as your sister, or as someone who lives in the same house and happens to share our parents?" Madison was quiet for a long time. When she finally answered, her voice was softer than usual. "I see you as my sister, but I think I've been so focused on my own stuff that I forgot to pay attention to yours." It wasn't a complete resolution. Years of family dynamics don't change overnight, but it was a beginning. 3 weeks later, on opening night of the spring play, I stood backstage in my costume, listening to the murmur of the audience gathering in the auditorium. My parents were out there somewhere, along with Sarah and a few other friends. And, to my surprise, Madison had asked if she could come too. "Places everyone." Mrs. Chen called out. "This is your moment. Go out there and shine." As I took my position on stage, waiting for the curtain to rise, I thought about that word in for so long. I'd believed there was only room for one person to shine in our family, and that person was Madison. But maybe that was never true. Maybe there was enough light for both of us. The curtain rose, and I stepped into the spotlight. Not because someone else had put me there, but because I had chosen to be there myself. For the first time in my life, I wasn't watching from the audience, I was part of the show. And as I delivered my first line to a theater full of people, including my family, I realized that being seen wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you chose for yourself. Madison was right about one thing. I needed to build my own life, instead of waiting for recognition from others, but she was wrong about something too. Families should celebrate each other, should make space for each other to shine. And if that wasn't happening naturally, then it was worth fighting for. After the final curtain call, as I stood on stage accepting applause from an audience that included everyone I cared about, I caught Madison's eye in the crowd. She was clapping, enthusiastically, and when our eyes met, she mouthed 2 words that I'd been waiting years to hear. "I'm proud." It wasn't everything. Our family still had work to do, and Madison and I still had conversations to finish. But it was a start. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was writing my own story instead of just reading someone else's. What did you think of Lily's journey from feeling invisible to finding her voice? Have you ever felt overlooked in your own family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about real family dynamics and personal growth. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step into your own spotlight.